Hello and welcome to Hard Talk India. As the recently re-elected left-front government in West Bengal crosses the 100-day mark, many people believe it represents a new face of government for this state. Is that in fact the case? To help answer that question and talk about the nature of government he wishes to give West Bengal is the new Chief Minister, Buddhadev Bhattacharjee. Chief Minister, your government seems to have coined the phrase, "Do it now" as a slogan. What is the message you're actually trying to convey?
Well, you see, when we first came to power in 1977, I still remember the political background of that election. Perhaps you know, the country was fighting against emergency rule, and Indira Gandhi got defeated in the center, and here we defeated both the Congress party and other fronts. And the first time, the left front, we won the election. And that was created enthusiasm inside the party, in the government, and among the people also. And that enthusiasm created a sort of momentum that helped us.
But it hasn't lasted 24 years.
Yes, it is very difficult to maintain that momentum for 24 years.
So in a sense, your slogan is an attempt to give fresh political results?
Yes, to sensitize our administration. Look, we have got the mandate of the people for the 6th time. It has no parallel in the history in our country. Therefore, we have got the mandate of the people, we have to perform. And only one chief minister and some group of ministers cannot do it.
So would I be right in saying that in a real sense then, your government represents the start of a new chapter, not just the continuation of an old story?
It's continuation of old policies and a new resolve to implement those policies with more sincerity, with more commitment, with more courage.
But there's also something else, because many times in interviews and press conferences that you've held, you've spoken about the need now to build on the successes of the past by concentrating on areas of neglect and on areas that you described candidly as failures.
Yes.
What are the sort of areas you have in mind?
Yes, you see, not after election, during the election campaign also, I told the people, and self-critically, we judged our certain policies in education, our health policy, our industrial policy, and other policies also. For example, education in our state, school education is free. Our target is to achieve universal education, compulsory universal education. And now literacy rate has reached 70%. We are setting up new primary schools in almost all villages.
But the quality is bad.
Yes,
the quality is bad.
The quality of teaching is bad. It's not up to the mark.
Tell me something. It's an anomaly that you face. You've created free schools, you have the widest network of schools, and yet quality is missing. That's because you failed to inspire teachers.
Yes, and we have to admit this failure. Therefore, now we are thinking to set up an institution for the training of the teachers. Unless they are taught properly, how can they teach the young people?
So you've realized that the important thing to do is to motivate individuals, not just create institutions. The individual teaching is important as well.
Yes, yes, because now we have set up a school service commission, and now that we are thinking to set up an institution for these teachers. And we have to improve the quality of teaching in the primary schools. This is one aspect.
You've also done something else, Chief Minister. In your letter of the 1st of June, you wrote to your Education Minister, Kanti Biswas, that you would like him to take measures to start the teaching of English from class 1. You personally have accepted that English is something that has to be taught. It is the means and language of the future.
I don't like to express my opinion on this subject. I just wrote a letter, which is true. I just told him to give the matter a serious thought. Again, that was my point. And politicians or any political party should not take a final decision on this issue. At least we should ask the experts to give their opinion. I requested him to set up a committee to discuss whether English should be taught from the very beginning, and we have to also review our curriculum, and that committee has already been set up.
And this, in a sense, you did because people actually in schools, their parents, their children wanted English to be taught. You were responding to it.
Yes, the world is changing, and this period of this area of globalization, English is the language of globalization. You have to teach English.
So when
Otherwise
people
you cannot advance in areas like science, technology, and other different areas also.
All that depends on English.
Yes.
So when people turn around and say that Buddhadev Bhattacharjee has reversed the communist position on the teaching of English, your answer is, I'm doing what the people want. I'm giving them the future they want.
Yes, because you see, things are changing, world is changing, people's perceptions is also changing. Therefore, we have to again review the matter.
And this, in a real sense, is a new chief minister saying, the world is changing, our policies need to change with the world.
Yes.
This, in a sense, is the meaning of do it now.
Yes.
Listen to the people and do it.
Yes.
But let me put something to you. In that letter of June the 1st, you advised Kanti Biswas, your education minister, to seriously look into teaching English from class 1. But 3 weeks later, on the floor of your assembly, he announced that the government has no plans to do anything of the sort. Do you not get the feeling that you and your education minister are at odds with each other?
No, what happened actually, they asked, as opposition, some opposition leader asked our education minister whether he has already changed that decision. He said no. Look, we have only set up a committee, and the committee will take a final decision. That was his position. And in fact, we have set up that committee and they are discussing that issue.
So the interpretation in the press, because you must have read this repeatedly in the Calcutta papers, that you and your education minister have two divergent views is a wrong interpretation.
Try to project the differences, the shades of, sometimes we differ, no doubt. But in this case at least, on this issue, we have no difference. The only thing we have decided that we have to set up a committee again with the experts and they will take a final decision.
Are you hopeful personally that at the end of that committee's deliberations, English will begin to be taught from class 1?
Let us wait.
You're being political. You don't want to jump the gun. Okay, you said courageously and candidly that sometimes you and your education minister do differ. Let me give you an example of another difference which people point towards because they say Buddhadev Bhattacharjee has the right ideas, but people in his cabinet don't let him act. You recently were very impressed by the Ramakrishna mission. You even asked their Seva Pratishthan to set up a medical college of their own. But virtually at the same time, Kanti Biswas wrote to the Ramakrishna mission to say that in future, please make sure you select all teachers from a government list sent by the Service Commission. Again, people said, you see, they go in different directions.
Yes, yes, they are running best schools in our state. They have a group of schools in different districts, Ramakrishna group of schools. And they are really good teachers, they have good teachers, and they are really running these institutions very well.
And you wanted to involve them to improve the educational system.
Certainly.
But Kanti Biswas wants to impose government teachers on them.
You should not condemn my colleague. You have to understand what happened actually. What is the law of the land? Our position is that they get salaries and DAs and other things from the government. And how the government can just they getting salaries and financial support from the government.
So there's a wonderful look of embarrassment on your face because the truth is that you wanted to open a new chapter. He wanted to stick by the old rule book.
No, no. I just told him that we have to appreciate their position also, and we have to come to maybe a compromise position because we should not disturb them, and government has to find out a way out. That is my position.
The reason I brought up this example and the earlier example is to suggest that you are full of new initiative, new thinking. You are in many ways the face of the new left front government. Your problem is that you have ministers like Kanti Biswas who believe that the old regime, the old system is better.
No, no. You should talk to him and we are on the same boat, brother.
Okay, let's take another area that you identified earlier as one of your target areas. Industrialization. As you know, in 1980-81, West Bengal accounted for 10% of the total national industrial output of India. by 97, 98, that had collapsed to just 5%. How much time has West Bengal lost as a result of these policies?
Almost 2 decades.
So in other words, you have to catch up 2 decades almost overnight.
Yes, we are a late starter. But after 1994, after we announced our new industrial policy, in the new situation, things are changing.
Are you determined as the new Chief Minister to leapfrog so that Bengal is not a laggard but becomes a frontline industrial
Yes,
state?
we are trying our best. For example, I can tell you, if you go to what is going on in our state, in some areas I told, you see the companies like Siemens was here from the early days. Now Hindustan Lever, then ITC was there, Bata, they are working here. Now big companies like Mitsubishi, they have come in our state.
Let me quote you something that
Then
you said.
IBM, then Microsoft, they are taking interest about West Bengal because we have our human resources is, I should humbly claim, our position is better than any other states.
Let me quote you what you said. You said you're determined to make Bengal the leading investment destination in South Asia. You've also said, I'm willing to even go to hell to make Bengal the business hub of India and the East. Now those are grand phrases and that's a grand vision. But people say that if he's serious, then he has to do 2 things. Firstly, how encouraging and how inviting can you be to foreign capital and multinational companies?
You see, our policy is very clear. We need their help. We need new technology. What I was telling you, I am going to Japan. I'm going to meeting all leading industrial houses in Japan. Mitsubishi has already come. Marubeni is taking interest. Sony is taking interest. Suzuki, I am meeting them one-to-one. Now,
you're going there to invite them to Bengal?
Yes.
You're going there to reassure them?
Yes, and I'm going to sign some papers also.
Are you also going to tell them that some of the images, some of the policies of the past like Gherao are over and they needn't worry?
Yes. You see, some people are in the country or abroad, they are afraid of our so-called militant trade unionism. They say, militancy. I'm telling you what is the change in the situation. We are telling our workers, employees in the offices, look, the world is changing. Earlier, you only raised slogans, demands. Now you have to understand the problem of the industry, problem of the productivity. You must follow a productivity norm. You have to improve the quality of production. We have to compete. This is a very competitive market. And without that, the problem of productivity is not only the headache of the employers. You have to understand the problem. Otherwise, industry will collapse.
The second criteria is one that you've already begun talking about. People say if he's serious about improving the industrial situation and if he's serious about inviting investment to Bengal, then he has to start changing the work culture of the place.
Correct. Therefore, work culture, you see, in the government offices, my primary responsibility is to improve the work culture in government offices. What we have started, you know, earlier there were government orders, circulars and all that, but that was not working. We are thinking to introduce in certain departments some IT, what today we call e-governance, about attendance in the offices. Computer, no more we will maintain registered books and all that.
It will be computerized.
It would be computerized. Performance would be computerized. And finally,
you're going to stress productivity.
Yes. And we have already taken it, we set up a committee and they have submitted their report, and we are going to introduce this new technology for the better service to the people and to speed up our...
Let me quote you something that your industry minister has said. He says, we are unable to make an impact with whatever good work we are doing because industrial sickness is a major drag on our economy. He says, we must try to protect the interest of our workers, but we have no illusions about being able to revive everything. Can you therefore change labor laws to permit unviable sick companies to close? That would be the biggest reassurance that you are really serious about industrial revival.
We have to try to revive those factories.
And if you
Yes,
can't?
If we can't, then we have to close it down.
So it is a possibility.
With the sufficient, pardon?
So it is a possibility.
Yes, we have 64 units, and most of them are in a very bad shape. We have appointed a committee, and we are trying to revive at least 10 to 12 out of the 64 industries. But we know that some industries are there cannot be revived.
That's
Never.
54 possibly. 54 cannot be revived.
No, out of total 64, we have already started, we have injected some funds and other. We have running 8 or 10 factories.
So what happens to those that can't be revived?
That we have to close them.
You will close them?
Yes, certainly.
You
but
will
with
bite that bullet.
sufficient safeguards to the workers. We just cannot throw them out.
Sure, but you will bite that difficult bullet. You will take that difficult decision.
Yes.
That again
Yes.
is a new communist policy.
No,
it is a new policy for the left front.
This is not a new policy. This is a restructuring of our old policy.
A restructuring of your old policy.
Yes.
What a wonderful euphemism.
Yes.
Let me put something to you. People hearing this interview will say that
I
Buddhadev...
visited China. They are doing the same thing.
Chinese communism is the model you wish to follow.
We have to learn something from them, certainly, because they have a very powerful socialist base, and they are restructuring their old steel factories. You just go through those papers, what they are doing.
This is wonderful. Deng Xiaoping is the model that you hold up today.
Not Deng Xiaoping's model. We introduce our understanding of Marxism in Indian soil. This is something different.
But China is the inspiration.
China's new ideas is certainly inspiring. What Fidel Castro is doing, what his position about foreign investment, what a South African Communist Party is doing, we are not different. You see, this is a new situation, and we have to understand this world situation and the changes that have taken place, and particularly we have to understand our country. We are introducing our policies in our country. We don't follow any model, Russian or Chinese or Cuban, but there are some similarities, some new policies that China has introduced in this period. That is, we have to understand.
Chief Minister, you said we have to understand the reality of things happening in our country. In a sense, I call it new policies, you call it restructuring.
Yes.
But this is an acceptance of reality. That's what you're doing.
No. We are realists. You run the industry and you must try your best to safeguard the interest of the workers.
And then when you don't succeed, you have to bite the bullet of closing down what you can't make viable. That you've also accepted.
But after that, we have to take the responsibility of those workers and their families. We have to rehabilitate them.
Chief Minister, people say one sign that you really are prepared to tackle the industrial problem is if you can find room for the private sector to help you in areas like education, in areas like urban development, perhaps even in areas like roads or information technology. Can you make room for the private sector in your scheme?
Certainly. They are welcome in all these spheres you mentioned just now. We need their help. In fact, we have started working with them in setting up engineering colleges. Now we have started dialogue to set up medical colleges. My urban development ministry, they have changed their earlier policy. And now we are asking them to come join with the government, the joint sector, constructing housing for the common people, middle class, lower middle class, even NRIs. We are constructing housing complexes with private participation.
Can you, for instance, bring the private sector in to sort out the problem of Calcutta roads?
Yes, we are also thinking we have to engage them in construction of roads. But about Calcutta, I can't just say just now whether they will take an interest about Calcutta. But we have now discussing with different financial institutions and private agencies. We need 3 expressway, one from north-south corridor, that is from Calcutta to Siliguri, Calcutta to Haldia, and then Calcutta to Kulpi.
And this you're prepared to give to the private sector?
Yes. We need their help. Not only of Indian companies, but foreigners also.
You see, you openly and candidly admit you need the private sector.
Yes.
So when you debate this with your colleagues in Alimuddin Street, how do they respond?
There may be sometimes some difference of opinion, but finally, when we take a final decision, then there is no problem.
But are you confident that you can persuade them against their resistance? Because these are new approaches. They are used to doing things the old way.
Yes. I tell you, there is always some debate and some differences there, but the world is changing and we are also changing.
Well, you say the world is changing, but do you remember 24 hours after the election results were announced, Anil Biswas said at a press conference that CPM ministers will file annual reports, annual plans, and these will be reviewed 6 monthly by Nirupam Sen. And everyone turned around and said, who's Anil Biswas to say this? This is the Chief Minister's prerogative. Why is he stepping on the Chief Minister's toes?
I don't remember just what he said at this time, but we don't encourage any center of extra-constitutional power.
So if he does try and interfere, you will politely tell him not to.
I believe he will not.
You believe he won't, or you hope he won't?
I believe, because I am working with him for all these years. I know him.
People say that Jyoti Basu had the stature, he had the experience to be able to assert his way against his party or even against the other left-front allies. Now, you have a lot of popularity, but you're new in the job. Are you confident that your authority won't be challenged?
No, because my relation with my colleagues in the party and with the other parties, our allies, I have very friendly relation with them. And you should not compare me with Jyoti Babu, because I never try to step in his shoes. I am trying to do it in my own way. And my relation with my colleagues in the party, in the front, with the other left parties, perfectly good.
In a sense, what you're saying to me is that I want to do things my way.
In my way, and with my colleagues, I believe in the collective leadership.
But you also believe in accepting changing reality.
Yes.
And you believe that government can't do everything. You must involve the private sector where it can help.
Yes. I am convinced that we have to change our earlier policies.
Even if some of those earlier policies are emotionally very dear to the party.
Emotion has no place in politics and policy making. Emotion is good, but no place in serious policy matters.
And are you prepared to fight and struggle to convince people?
Yes. People are ready to accept these new policies, I think. I understand the perception of the people. They want change. And our slogan in the election was change. Change for the better.
So in other words, what you're saying is left front rule has to change with the times. It has to reflect the reality that the private sector has a role to play.
Certainly. Change or you perish.
So the left front government that Buddhadev Bhattacharjee will give Bengal will be very different to the left front government that came to power 24 years ago.
But these new ideas are emerging from our earlier experiences also.
But you're prepared to accept the mistakes of the past and you're prepared to accept the agenda of the present.
Yes. We have to reject the mistakes we have committed earlier, and we have to accept the new situation, and we have to adopt new policies.
And you will fight against your party even if you do it behind closed doors.
I don't think there will be any problem with my party.
You will even be able to convince people like Anil Biswas and Biman Basi.
I'm not, but you should not mention the names of certain leaders. The leadership of the party, we formulate policies. We have a party program. We have resolutions on the current issues, and we work on that. It's not a question of any individual.
And what about the C2 leadership? Will you be able to carry them?
They are also changing. They are also trying to motivate their workers in these new ideas.
But they also probably feel threatened by some of the reforms and some of the new language that they're hearing from you.
No, they are not afraid. They are trying to understand what it is all about, and I am trying to convince them they should accept these changes.
Tell me something then. You've committed yourself to restructuring. I keep calling it new policies. You call it restructuring old ones.
Restructuring and reorientation.
Restructuring and reorientation. Wonderful euphemism for saying what I'm saying in a different way. How many years do you need to fulfill your target of revitalizing industry, improving education, strengthening the health system, and slimming down and making administration efficient?
I will try my best to implement the policies we promised before the elections. That I can say.
And you're confident you'll succeed up to 70%?
70 or 80, I will try to implement at 100%. And you will come again after 5 years, I will meet you and you will judge.
Mr. Bhattacharjee, thank you very much for talking to Hard Talk India.
Thank you.